Welcome to the Leader Mentality Show with Rob Clemens. We are on the air today with a special guest, and as I've always said, it's all about the community. It's all about helping others and inspiring others. And so anytime I can get a great person on here who I feel like is doing good things out there, I'm going to jump on that with both feet. And today we have just such a person. I've met her a couple of times. She has a great feel to her as far as like where her spirit is. And I don't want to make you like feel weird about this, Gina, before you come on. So I'll just introduce you with her name is Gina Cassaza. She is a speaker. She's an author, nonprofit founder. And so let's hear all about you today. What's going on?
Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Well, you know, Gina, you and I met when I was doing a speaking event.
You are good.
Oh, well,
you are. And I could tell the way you're speaking right now, I'm like, gosh, he has that speaker voice. You don't say the likes or the ums, you're in it.
You know, after you do it for a little while, you start getting pretty good at it. And I've always been an ad-libber. So I try to just stay off of scripts and let's just get into the good stuff and talk from the heart.
You're good at it.
Well, thank you. That's very cool. Gina, one thing that we talked about, and we're going to really sprinkle in today, is talking about leaving a legacy. And leaving a legacy to me is such a powerful thing because it's not just about you. It's about what you are leaving others to aspire to in some cases. And sometimes it's in making others better and giving them a target to hit. So we're going to talk about that today. I think that's going to be really fun.
That's one of my themes of life is what legacy can I leave behind for not just the next generation, specifically my nephew, but that he would take when he raises a family and then they take when they raise it. It's for generations to come, you know?
Yeah, I think that's really huge. And we're going to dive into how to do that, how you've been doing that. And but before we get into all that, tell me a little bit about yourself. What have you been up to lately? Yeah.
Oh gosh, how much time do we have?
Oh, all the time in the world.
So currently right now, my main focus is my nonprofit Empower Lit, Literacy and Beyond. That's the full name.
Yeah.
What we do is we increase literacy in students while building self-esteem through author visits and literacy events. So my big goal for this school year is 50 schools to visit, 50 author visits.
Okay.
And then we want to do a literacy camp over the summer, just a week. And then by next school year, we'll have the next 50 schools. And we want to do a teen publishing company. So either a junior, senior, and I'm debating if I'm going to open up to college. And they would come out with a book. Like they have a book or they're going to write that book and they're going to work with the professional editor. We're going to walk them through publishing, like how to be an author, and how to get your book published. And once a month for the 9 months that they're in school, they're also going to be on a Zoom. And each month is going to be a different theme. They're going to meet with a professional marketer in the publishing business. They're going to meet with a professional agent. And they're going to have those, group Zooms. So that's the goal. Obviously, I have to focus on the funding. The main thing is getting those 50 schools and getting that funded. Then I can move to the camp. And then I could go, okay, let's do the book. And I'm leaning towards 2 books for the first year.
Okay.
It's $15,000 a piece. So 2 books. So I feel like, 2 books, and then we could work our way up to 5 to 10 books in terms of getting those kids their books, and they're not just publishing a book, they're gaining entrepreneurial skills. And for myself, going into, okay, this is my focus, let's get to who I am, right? I have always been someone that wanted to just experience life, where when I was way back, not way back, I'm only 36.
right.
But
back in the 50s.
But when I was 6, I wanted to be a archaeologist, and I dug up my whole backyard thinking I was going to find stuff, right? And then 8, I wanted to be the first female Major League Baseball player, so I wrote to the president, and I joined a baseball team, and then at 12 I wanted to be a singer, and then I created a music video, and I sent it out at 12 to Virgin, Atlantic, all these places, and then I ended up going to the film business, and then I eventually landed there, and I decided, okay, film is where it's going to be. And I worked on shows like Dancing with the Stars, and I ran Penny Marshall's company for 5 years until she passed. I worked for Ralph Macchio. I did a bunch of stuff, and then I went into acting and stand-up comedy.
Nice.
Got an opportunity to open for Nick Swartzen. Did a couple of shows with Whitney Cummings, a show with Jeff Ross. Like, it was great. It was fun. And then COVID hit, and LA was shut down because that's where I was living. And I decided I went back to I left LA for a bit. And then when I went back to LA, everything was still shut down. Mm-hmm. But they were giving us a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And when you have like too much money and too much time on your hands, like, you know, like it's just it's an interesting recipe. Right?
This is the age-old problem everybody's having. Too much money and
that was what was going on. So I did I looked at my mom because crime was like on the rise in LA, right?
Okay.
And I was like, you think I could survive a kidnapping? And she was like, no.
Definitely not, right?
And I was like, you answered that too quickly. Think about it. She was like, I don't need to think about it. I see you. You can't do it.
Like, nah, all 5 foot of you or whatever.
No, that's it, 5 foot. No. Yeah. And she was like, definitely not. And I'm like, there has to be a program where you get kidnapped, mm-hmm. and they teach you, like, and they put you through the test. So then I looked for that, I found it, and it happened to be a civilian SEER course. You know anything about SEER?
No, not really.
Okay, so SEER is something that our special forces do in the military. Theirs is like, I believe it's 21 days or 3, but mine was just a weekend, civilian. Okay. And what they do is it stands for Survival, Invasion, Resistance, Escape. And what they do is they give you survival skills, right? And then at some point, they kidnap you. Uh-huh. And then they torture you for a number of hours. And then at some point, you get to escape. And then you're hunted in the woods all night. And like whatever you're wearing, you are like, that's it, right?
Gina, you live a very different life than most people I know. Hey, what are you doing for fun? I'm going to get tortured.
I'm going to get kidnapped.
Yeah, right.
I paid to get kidnapped. Right. But it was like too much time and too much money.
Yes.
So I was like, okay, I'm going to pay for this kidnapping thing because my mom said no, I couldn't make it. And I was like, game on.
Yeah, right.
But if she would have said, yeah, you can do it, my life, the nonprofit wouldn't exist.
Wow.
Put it you that way.
It's crazy how people motivate you, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, it's like it's some people get motivated by, you can do it, and some people are like, you can't do it, and you're in that group at least. Yeah.
And then here's the thing though.
Yeah.
I joined, like I was like, sign me up for the weekend course. And then I looked into it. I didn't even look into it. I just saw the word kidnapping and I was like, game on, right?
Yeah, right.
Then I found out it's what I explained to you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, she was right. I'm not going to make it. Right. So then I was like, I just finished reading Living with the SEAL by Jesse Itzler. Mm-hmm. And so obviously in my head, Navy SEAL.
Yeah,
Navy SEAL,
right?
For sure. So I was like, I got to find a Navy SEAL to train me for the next 2 months. Mm-hmm. End up finding this organization, this nonprofit called Team Eagle One, and what Coach Mac does, who's a former Navy SEAL, is he trains guys and girls to go through special forces, right? Mm-hmm. And he specializes in buds in particular, right? And
is the goal specifically to go into the military or just
Many of them are already enlisted.
Okay,
already
all right, gotcha.
In the military, and they're in the pipeline.
Right, they want to get to that next level of the elite group. Okay, gotcha.
Well, the thing that people don't understand is that they just think you could sign up and go to buds.
Oh, right.
It's a privilege. Exactly. There is a whole long thing that you have to do in order to get that opportunity to go to buds. So most of them are in that pipeline getting ready to go, right?
Fair enough.
And I was civilian, and I messaged him, and I'm like, I just wait to get kidnapped. Can I just one day? I won't interrupt your program, I promise. I just want to know if I could at least make the day. Mm-hmm. And he was like, if you pay to kidnap, like, please, I have to meet you. Come on down.
Right. Yeah.
So I show up, and I see them, and they look like real G.I. Joe action figures in the Flash. And,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't. Right?
Right.
So I walk away. I'm like, no, I can't do this. And then I was like, Gina, if you want to survive this kidnapping, you have to do this. You have to. So I mustered up the courage. I said hello. And then boom, game on. It started.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to quit 7 times in the first minute. I didn't think I was going to make it. I was miserable. I was last in all the runs. I struggled so much. It was the worst thing I've ever, the hardest thing, the worst thing. I looked around and I'm like, these people find this fun?
Yeah, right.
None of this is fun. And then I made it, didn't quit. Okay? Day one, didn't quit. Now it's just supposed to be one day. This is very important.
Okay.
Coach Mac said something, and he said he's never said this before.
All right.
So I don't know how this happened, but again, without this, now we wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
He was like, if you think day 1 is hard, try day 2.
Wow.
Because your mind is going to give you every excuse not to show up again. And every excuse will be logical. That's what's going to make it so hard.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. That's amazing.
Right?
Okay.
Mic drop on that one.
Yeah, for sure.
So then I go up to him and I was like, listen, I'm here for the hard. I have to come back for day 2 after what you just said. Come back.
Right.
And he was like, we'd be lucky to have you. And people listening are like, yeah, he wanted your money. It was a nonprofit. It was a free program.
Yeah.
He could have said no.
Oh, of course.
Especially because I'm civilian. And he was like, we'd be lucky to have you. So him saying yes, me going back to day 2, he was right. Every excuse. Because first of all, my body felt like it got hit by a truck for 3 days, right?
Right.
I couldn't even move. And then when it was time to go, like my brain was like, you're not trained to be a Navy SEAL. Like all these logical excuses came up.
Sure.
But I showed up. And then I showed up the next time and the next time. And I ended up in that program up until I went to SEER.
Wow.
The civilian SEER program. Crushed it at SEER. And then went back and continued with them until I moved from LA.
Okay.
While I was in there, this is what I learned that sparked the nonprofit and what I teach in kids right now.
Okay.
Now, I learned that, let me back up a second. So for the last for the first 6 weeks, first 4 weeks, I was last in all the runs. Couldn't even do a pull-up. I was terrible, okay? The 5th and 6th week, every once in a while, I'd be with the pack, in the middle of the pack. Every once in a while, wouldn't always be last, okay?
Yeah.
Then towards the last 2 weeks, that's when the light bulb came off, when I was like in the front a little bit, and this light bulb went off in my mind that was like, Gina, you're never gonna fit in with this group. And I've been trying to fit in the whole entire time. And they didn't ostracize me. They weren't mean to me. They didn't tell me I didn't belong. They didn't tell me to go home. It was a mental thing. It was I feel it's an insecurity, right?
This is within you, not within them.
Right.
Yeah.
I feel like I don't belong because I'm not good enough.
Sure.
Okay? That's what it comes down to, right? And as I started to get good enough, not all the time, but I was like, you're still never going to fit in. And then this light bulb went off and I was like, fitting. I learned in that moment, this light bulb went off as I was running with a pack. And I was like, belonging and fitting in are not the same thing. We are teaching kids that belonging and fitting in are the exact same thing. So no wonder I feel like I don't belong with the group because I don't feel like I fit in, right? Because I'm taught that fitting and belonging are the same. And this is where I struggled in life because ever since I was like 7, I had so many friends, I was involved in so many activities, but I always felt like an outsider, like I didn't belong, right? And it was because I always felt like I needed to fit in, but I never felt like I fit in because even though we might look similar, right? I didn't think like everyone else. I always dressed a little edgy and different and stuff. So I always stood out, and sometimes I always wanted to stand out. I always wanted to be different. So in that sense of I've always wanted to not be like everybody else, I ostracized myself, or I always felt like I didn't belong, right?
Wow. Okay.
Because we're teaching also, it's the same, right?
Yeah.
But it's just funny though, because we're also teaching kids that they need to be themselves, right? But then we're teaching them that fitting in and belonging are the same thing. So can you understand how a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 16-year-old is going to feel?
Yeah.
Like you're giving them 2 totally different messages.
Can I break in with
Please.
a quick thing here? I had this interesting epiphany, which is along these lines, mixed messages that we give to kids. And I experienced this when I was growing up. And it was one of these things where my dad would, half the time he would say, you care too much what other people think. And then the other half the time he'd say, you need to care more what people think. It's the most bizarre thing. So here I am as a kid growing up. It's already hard enough. And then you're like, wait a minute. Do I care too much or not enough, Dad? I'm not sure what to do anymore, right? So again, these are these mixed messages. They can make it hard enough when you're growing up. So, okay.
100%. Yeah. And then this light bulb went off where I was like, they're opposites. Because now think about this, and this is what I teach the kids in elementary school to get them to understand. You ever play a sport? You ever wear the wrong jersey?
It's happened, I'm sure. Yeah.
You did not fit in that day because everyone's going to point you out. Kid with the wrong jersey, right?
Yeah.
Didn't mean you didn't belong to the team, right?
Right.
So how can belonging and fitting in mean the exact same thing when I just gave you that, right?
Good point. Yep.
So I realized I was never going to fit in with them. First of all, I'm female, okay, 5 feet tall, under 100 pounds, like all these things. Like I was last all the time. Like I just didn't fit in. But that didn't mean I didn't belong to the team. That didn't mean I didn't belong there. And I learned that fitting in means changing yourself to be part of a group, right?
Gotcha.
Belonging means you just have to show up as your authentic self, knowing you're enough.
Nice. I like that. Okay,
Right?
very cool.
And when you can know you belong, you then can have a different opinion than everybody else. You can dress how you choose, right? You can be on your skill level, right? You don't have to worry about being someone you're not. You just have to embrace who you are, knowing that you still belong. So you can be with the team, but you could also be your own individual.
I mean,
right?
well, you use a perfect example. I mean, look, if we had a football team comprised of everybody that was playing quarterback, the whole team is full of a quarterback, you would, quote unquote, fit in really well, but you actually may not even belong that well in that case. You know, there's an interesting thing that happens. So if you can learn to appreciate the diversity within you of whom you are and what you bring to the table, then you actually could be a better fit for them than all the people who are trying to follow along and be the same exact carbon copy of each other, right?
100%.
I got you. I like it.
So that was like the second to last week of me leaving this program, like finishing up this program. And then that last week was a Sunday. It was the last day of training. I was officially leaving Los Angeles that week. And it was my last day. And I said to them, you guys taught me what it means to belong. Tomorrow, I'm going to Joshua Tree National Park, and I am going to write a children's book on belonging.
Nice.
For 7-year-old me.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went to Joshua Tree, no technology. I mean, I had technology, but it doesn't work, which is great. But 4 hours, I wrote my children's book, You Really Truly Do Belong. Year and a half, I published it. Took me, because finding an illustrator, learning how to be a publisher. I didn't pay somebody.
Sure.
I did the whole thing.
Okay.
Like, I went through the whole journey of learning how to self-publish and all that stuff. I created an animation for the book, all this stuff. And then the book launched, and at that time I was on Long Island, and then schools were hiring me to come speak to their kids because they were like, we need this message in schools, and we also need to get them excited about literacy, so we do these author visits, and you have a great message, come. So I'd come, and they paid me, and they'd buy books, and I was like, this is a career. This is I didn't know this. Then I moved down to South Carolina, and I was like, I'm going to do the same thing. And then I got a lot of pushback. We don't really do author visits. We don't have the budget. It's too much for us. We don't have the time to put this together. And then I said, okay, well, what if I get you guys a grant? I get you a grant for your school. Bring me in. And they were like, oh, okay. And then I got them a grant. I think they were just shocked I get them a grant. Right. I got them the grant. And then they were like, I still have to fill it out and stuff. This was too much. And then I said, okay, what if I started a nonprofit? What if I started a nonprofit, got grants, got funding, and I could then go to the schools to teach this program, to do an assembly, get the kids not just excited about literacy, but also build their self-esteem at the same time. And they were like, yes. And I said, perfect. And here we are today. It took, almost 30 minutes to get here. But this is where we are with how I started the nonprofit, how I ended up being an author, how I ended up writing this book. And then next thing you know, you turn into a speaker because... First of all, I really believe that if you could speak to middle school and high schoolers and get them excited,
oh man,
you're golden.
That's a skill beyond all skills. So I'm gonna tell you.
A friend of mine is just getting into speakings at schools. And I'm like, what age group? And he said, middle school, high school. How should I practice? And I said, just turn to the wall and talk.
Right. I'm gonna tell you, as a guy who's spoken to all age ranges, high school, college, middle school, and on. The hardest group is that, like, I'm going to say they're between the ages of 10 and 16. That is a tough group right there.
Tough group.
And they're not that easy between 16 and 20 either, by the way. I just want to be honest, because I talk to Coastal Carolina at least once a year. And I'm always like, there's those couple who are ahead of the curve and they're following everything you're saying. The rest of them, you're like, you're working hard.
Yeah.
Might be a bead of sweat coming down from my face at that point. You got so many cool things here. I've got to go back and now we're going to start talking some questions, okay?
Okay, go ahead.
One thing you said a minute ago, and I want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say you wrote that book for 7-year-old you? Did I hear that correctly?
Correct. Yeah.
So tell me about 7-year-old you.
7-year-old me just struggled to feel like she belonged, right? I was trying to fit in, but then I was trying to be my own person. Always wanted to be my own person. I always wanted to, I never wanted to, the best way to say it, there is this photo, and I remember it from childhood because I always had it with me. And it was all these people that looked exactly the same. You know, it was like a blank face. It didn't have a face or anything. It was a blank face with a black shirt, and everyone was standing and looking the same, and then right in the middle was someone with a red shirt. Okay? And I always had that because I always, like, that's who I wanted to be in terms of my own human being. I did not want to change myself. If you wanted me to do something that I didn't want to do, I wanted to be able to look at that photo and be like, be the person you want to be, that individual, stand out. Don't just fake it in, right? And yet, I'm taught from society that fitting in and belonging are the same thing. So we have this disconnect. So yeah, I had so many friends and I was a part of so many different groups. I was involved in so many things. From the outside, you wouldn't know that on the inside, I was struggling.
Man, it's powerful. I mean, we have to remember, you know, even as adults, how challenging life can feel. But for a kid, when you're finding out where you fit within the pecking order, you're figuring out where you fit in the social norm and constructs. You feel like you should be doing something that you're saying being your most authentic self can actually be a lot more, I guess, healing and all those positive things that come from life. That's really powerful, and I appreciate that. And we got so many things I'm going to have to kind of like jump.
Just so you know, 1 out of 3 kids feels like they don't belong.
Oh, I mean,
I'm trying to combat that.
I can imagine that. And it's probably 1 out of 3. It might be higher than that when you really dive in, because sometimes kids might not even be honest when it's coming down to that. I mean, I get you. So we get into the challenges of literacy. I'd like to hear more about that, because you've made this a platform. We hear it a lot, especially in a place like South Carolina. If you look at it from a school system, and by the way, I'm very respectful of Horry County school system, local schools. Whenever I talk like I'm about to talk, I don't want it ever to sound like I'm challenging in that way. But if you look at South Carolina, for example, in the ranking of schools throughout the country, it doesn't rank in the top 10 or anything. Let's leave it like that.
It's 38.
At 38. Okay, so let's go straight to it. And the idea is that there's a challenge already with that. And then we have paired along with that the literacy challenge, which is nationwide, right? Tell me about that, and why did it get this bad in your estimation?
I can't tell you why it got this bad, because I just got here.
In general, though, like maybe even countrywide, why are you seeing this?
I could tell you many different, I guess, the hypotheses that I have, right? In terms of, first of all, the national reading scores came out, and 30%, this is nation, not just South Carolina, read at grade level, 30%. Wow. So you're a business owner. Think about the people that are going to be applying for a job to work for you in the next 10 years. If 30% of them read at grade level. That's
crazy. Right. Yeah, it's a concern.
We have focused on testing and only testing, and not allowed creativity. We not allowed what was it? It's one school I listened to in South Carolina. They took away recess to have more, to focus the kids more testing and learning and stuff like that. And I just think when we can learn to make learning fun, the reason why I say I don't teach your child how to read through Empower Lit, we get your kid excited about reading. Because if I could get your kid excited about reading, I don't have to teach them. Your job is a lot easier in terms of, also, let me ask you, are you a parent?
Oh, no, I have no kids.
Okay.
I got nieces and nephews.
Okay. Most of the people, they don't sit down and have dinner together as a family. It's a 2-parent household that are working. Yeah. They're tired, right? They might not be sitting down and reading with kids at night before bed. My mom always did that. She sat with us and she read with us all the time. We had speakers at my school. I had Shel Silverstein come to my school. Yeah. I still have his book he signed. We also had other speakers that came to our school. I remember, there was a guy from jail, there was a guy from ALS, and they, really made an impact where I still remember them. So I think we need to get rid of, because what's happening right now isn't working, right? Yeah. So why not try something different? And why not get kids to be more creative? But it's also really hard, because if I was on their side, I'd be like, well, we have 30 kids and it's really hard to corral, and then one kid is, acting out, and then it takes me 20 minutes to get the class back to focus. That's hard. Yeah. It's not for sure easy right now in either direction, right? And what I want to do is I just want to make it a little bit more inspiring, because if you can, motivate and inspire a child, and also if you can build their self-esteem. And let's talk about self-esteem right now, because we're living in a digital, this is the first time that kids are growing up in that digital era, right?
Yeah.
We've never witnessed this before.
Sure.
Okay?
Gen Zers have grown up with it.
Right.
Sure.
And so how do you think a 12-year-old feels when they're on a phone and they're seeing all this amazing stuff from people in their friends of theirs going on this vacation and that vacation, and they can't go on a vacation, right? Or this is happening. And the thing is, let's be real, people don't really show their failures or their hurts on social media. They're showing their wins, their successes, their highs.
Yep.
And kids can't understand that. And then you get those keyboard warriors, right? So we have this, I just want to be loved, because that's a human being, it's human nature. I just want to feel like I belong, human nature. We're social beings, right? And we are also not teaching them any communication skills. They're standing behind a phone. How many parents are ordering for their kids? When I was a server 15 years ago or 10 years ago, if a parent didn't order for their child, the child ordered for themselves, I went and got them a dessert on the house, because it was like once a month.
Yeah.
And I worked in a diner where there were kids all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
How many parents are doing things more for their kids versus, and the schools don't want to fight. Why would they? I don't want to fight with you. I don't want to fight with this parent who's, they're just, putting kids in the next grade that aren't ready to be in the next grade as well, right? And it's hurting. And I think we need to really reevaluate everything. And I will say, I've noticed in South Carolina, because I think this fall, we're hitting between 15 and 20 schools between October and November through Empower Lit. They're all in South Carolina, and these schools were open. Everybody I called and I said, they're like, we want this program, we love it, and they're sharing it around. So I will say, they are very open to this.
Receiving this.
They seem this way, because I haven't had pushback or anything like that. Now, when you go to the higher ups, that's when there's more red tape, there's more pushback and things like that, where the superintendent might not be as receptive as me just going to the principal, and the principal's like, 100%.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, there's naturally new things are always going to be a challenge. Very cool that you're making that headway and making that progress. So well done with that. You used a word a while ago that I think is very important. And I think it's important for kids. I think it's important for somebody who wants to be a business owner. I think it's important for anybody who's going to put themselves out there in a place where you can be judged. And you said you had to dive into your courage. You said you had to actually apply some courage, and it was in the sense of how you have to go for things sometimes that they're not that easy for people. Use courage when you're doing something that's not natural to you. Tell me about yourself. Have you always been a courageous person? Is this something that you developed over the years? How did you get to that point?
I think it was a mixture between my parents and myself. Because I remember I believe it was 10, and I was doing this thing called NYSSMA. Anyone that's in New York knows it, because it's New York State music, something. And I was playing the piano for a judge. And you spend a year practicing a piece, and then you go one-on-one with the judge, and you play. And they grade you. And in the middle of my piece, she's like, I got to stop you right here. I'm 10. Okay, smaller than I am now.
Yeah.
and she goes, do you have a parent here? And I said, oh, my mom. And she goes, can you get your mom? And I have to go out in the hallway. And by the way, it's like packed. It's packed with students and parents.
Okay.
And I have to go out there and ask for my mom, who now has to go in, which, by the way, doesn't happen. The kid goes in, the kid goes out. Parents don't go in.
What's this all about?
Okay?
Right.
Parent comes in, and they're like, she doesn't know what she's doing. The piece is a mess. It's not very good. And it's better that I grade her as a participant, not on an actual grade.
Wow.
And so I leave, I get into the car, and that's when I start crying, because I was like, I'm not going to let anyone see me cry. And then I get into the car, and I'm like upset, and my mom was like, wanted me to also go to a friend of mine who's a piano teacher, a friend of mine's mom who's a piano teacher, and be like, play for her, and let's see what's going on, right? But before that, as we're driving to go to my friend's mom's house, my mom was like, if you don't want to do this again next year, you don't have to do it again. Because I put myself in there. No one made me go in there. It wasn't a thing. I put myself there. And I was like, no, I'm going back next year. And I hope to get the same lady, and I'm going to play the same piece. And I did. I didn't get the same lady, but I played the same piece. But the thing was, I think I was just nervous because when I went to go and play for my friend's mom, it was fine. She was like, no, it's good. I think I was just nervous. So also, I think also leading up to that is my parents cultivated a no quit, also be resilient mindset, because ever since I was like 5 years old, I would have to call, like, if we couldn't make it to a birthday party, and my mom was like, call and let them know we can't make it, you have this other thing, right? And I'm like, all the other parents call. And she's like, well, I wasn't invited to the party. You were.
Okay.
Invite, right?
Yeah.
And I would, like, have to call and be like, and then she would always call the mom to let them know, like, but it was a way of her to get me over that. I don't want to call. I don't want to speak. I'm nervous. I was a child, by the way, which is funny because I'm talking this whole time, but that didn't really talk. I was very shy, and my parents were always pushing me to do things out of my comfort zone, and I would fight them all the time, and they wouldn't have it. And they also had a thing where, like, you weren't allowed to quit until the end of the year. Okay. So if you were part of the team and you just didn't like it, well, too bad. You're part of the team.
You committed to it. Right.
Committed to it.
Got it. Okay.
And so they taught me all that stuff. So because of that, I think that also cultivated that get out of your uncomfortable. And I will say, like, it never gets easier. When I decided to be a stand-up comic and I got up on stage and I did my first set, it never gets easier, right?
Really?
It just doesn't. You just kind of embrace it. Like, you embrace the whole, like, uncomfortable, where it suddenly becomes comfortable.
Okay.
But what I'm saying though on when it doesn't come easy is that, like, everything that I attempt is a new discomfort, right? Being an author, new discomfort, right? Joining the Navy SEAL program, new discomfort, right? Stand-up comic, new discomfort. A nonprofit, new discomfort. I have a plushie company. I just decided to do a whole new marketing campaign for it. Totally out of the comfort zone. But the thing is like, I am willing to take risks and be out of my comfort zone just because I'm comfortable within myself and I know that I belong. And I think that's really what it comes down to.
All right, that's a full circle right there. I like it. Yeah. Well, it is important. If you're out there, you're listening, you're a viewer, the getting into the uncomfortable areas is the place where you grow. If you stay in the things that you're most comfortable in, you're like a car on the highway. You're the treads on your tires are a certain way, and you just have a way of get in that groove where you just can't get out. So get into those uncomfortable areas. You've made a life of it, which is really, really interesting and very cool, very commendable. So I want to talk about a couple of things. We have about 3 or 4 minutes left. All right. So let's talk about a couple. No, this is great. So when you are dealing with kids a lot,
yes,
you have kids of your own, I assume?
No, sir.
You have no kids either. Okay. So here's my question: have you always been a kid person?
No.
Right. So this isn't like you're a person who's like, I just love being around kids.
Now I do.
You do now, but
I love it.
You didn't.
Mainly because I have a nephew.
Right.
He's 3.5. He's going to be 4 soon, but he changed my life. So after you really truly do belong is now you really truly are enough. There wouldn't be a second book if it wasn't for him. I dedicated the book to him. I put him in the book. And I'm trying to teach him these limited beliefs that we all have. I don't belong. I'm not enough. And I want to combat that. Okay. Before it happens, right? So literally my nephew is my whole entire life. And it also gets me to like more around kids and everything like that. So I grew up not a kid person. I always was like, I'll probably never have kids. I was always very career focused.
Yeah.
Priorities have changed. Especially as a female, like in her 30s. It's like priorities really changed. Clock is ticking.
But I think it's very cool. You look at the progression of life for people, and the message for me with leader mentality, it's always been the same. I want people to understand you're not alone in the way you feel. Sometimes you feel like the world is against you, and it's like it's something that within you're like, man, everything's bad happening to me, or whatever may be the case. And the message to you are unique, you are special, but you're also experiencing things that a lot of people feel like, and you don't have to be alone. And so when you're a kid, it's very hard to understand that. I think as you get older, hopefully your wisdom takes you to a point where you say, it's actually normal to have some setbacks. It's normal to fail at something. And that's okay too. You don't have to be a superstar with everything you do, but keep trying. Put yourself in those discomfort areas. I love that. Okay, Gina, let me talk about just a couple more things really important to me. You talked about the resilience, okay? Resilience is so important, and passion, because when I talk to college students, I always tell them the same thing. If you don't have a passion for what you're doing, when you get to that point that it stinks, and by the way, every job, every business you start, every team, there's going to be a part that sometimes doesn't feel great, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have a passion for it, a lot of times your natural thing is going to be, all right, I'm going to quit. And it's interesting because you've gone against the grain of that. You say, hey, I'm going to see through what I do. But my message is with the resilience is you have to keep pushing. You have to keep going. What is within you? What would you tell people who are feeling that thing right now? They're feeling some resistance. What would you tell them to help inspire them to keep going?
I would say you got to fight that resistance. You have to, because motivation does not drive action. You know, usually it comes after the action. You do it and then you get motivated to continue, right? But what you need to learn how to do is get out of your own way. Do it anyway. I don't want to go to the gym when I wake up at 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? There's so many things throughout my day that I don't want to do. Emotion does not drive my actions. Learn to feel your emotions and understand your emotions so you can push them aside to take action on what you need to do.
That's the best tip right there. I mean, you don't say anything else. That's the best tip. Well, the reason I say that is, look, emotion goes up and down. Emotion goes up and down. Hey, I'm having a great time. Have you ever been driving down the road and you hear a great song and you're like, yeah, all right. And then you hear a sad song and maybe you get a little sentimental. Emotion goes up and down, but it should not change your trajectory of where you're going. So long after that initial excitement, enthusiasm about I want to try a new thing, dies off for whatever reason it died off for you.
Because it's hard.
Because it's hard.
You don't realize it's frustrating. You're a beginner. You don't realize that there is a giant learning curve to get to that next level that levels out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then you have another giant learning curve, which then people falter a bit. But that first giant learning curve, people are like, no.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree. So you have to know why you're doing it. And I would always suggest you try to find something you could be passionate about or you are passionate about, because that's the thing that's going to really push you through when you get that little bit of resistance, if you plateau at all. You know?
I will say it's normal to want to quit. Okay, let's just put that out there.
That's a part of life.
Sometimes on an everyday basis, I'm just like, I don't know if I want to keep going with this, right? Because it's just challenging. Right now, for the nonprofit, we have to get ready for next year.
Yeah.
In terms of, and when I mean next year, January, which is coming up.
Sure. And
get funding. And I'm like, well is dry in December. What are we going to do? And then I'm like, it's going to I always say to myself, and this is on my whiteboard, what is one thing that you could do today that's going to move you forward tomorrow? That's it.
Yep.
Was one thing. And so that's what I focus on, and then I know it'll come. The donors will come, things will happen. But when you sometimes think about how hard it's going to be, how you're going to get there, all that stuff, you overwhelm yourself and you're ready to quit. Just focus on one thing right now.
Love it. Here's mine. I got one for you. And anybody who's listening to the show, you might have heard me say this before, but I tell this especially to the younger people in the group. What you're doing today is your audition for tomorrow. So sometimes when you're not being your best self, you might actually be setting yourself up for failure tomorrow. It's okay to not be your best self every day, but my point is if you could cognitively understand that on that day when you're about to mail it in at work because you're having a horrible day, or you're about to mail it in with your relationship, or you're about to mail it in with your kids, or whomever it is, your friendship, that could be your audition for tomorrow, whatever you're doing, okay? So be your best self. Let me ask you one last thing. We start off talking about leaving a legacy, okay? If somebody's out there and we've heard you loud and clear today, tell me what you would say to them about leaving their legacy. What should they be doing?
Well, what's the impact that they want to make on the world?
Okay.
You got to go internal. Ask yourself some questions on what do you want the next generation what do you want to leave the next generation with, right? And it could just be your story. And you could just write that story and someone could find it, or whether it's a family member or a friend or whatever, and that story can inspire somebody, right? Think about like Anne Frank, right? And how that journal got left behind, that legacy that she left, that was not the intention, right? But her story mattered. Her story made an impact, right? And I share with the kids every single time I finish a presentation, I say, you just read my story. I felt like the alien that didn't belong. Main character's an alien. And then each one of you guys has a story, and that story is meant to be told. And I hope one day I get to read your story just like you guys read mine.
Oh,
and right there, it's like your story can be the legacy, because as you said earlier in the show, we feel in the teen world that nobody understands, that nobody's been through it before. And then as you get older, you get wiser and realize this is normal, right? So if a teenager or someone can hear your story and hear you went through struggles too, they don't feel so alone. So sharing a story is a part of a legacy. And obviously literacy is very important to me because I have a nonprofit about it, right? And I'm an author. But through stories, you can not only leave a legacy, but you can also help others not feel like they're alone.
You know, that's awesome. I think that's a good place for us to kind of wrap for today, because honestly, if you're thinking about your legacy, what your legacy is going to be, and I actually had this conversation with an employee the other day. They were going through something in their personal life that was very challenging. And I said, I think you're going to triumph through this. And I think when you triumph, I think you're going to be able to tell a story about it. And when you tell that story, that can inspire somebody who's going through that exact same thing. So don't give up. I mean, just think what you can do for others through that. So well done, Gina. You have been a great guest today.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate everything you had to say. How can people find out more about you?
So you can find out more about me at GinaCassaza.com. That's GinaCassaza.com. Or to learn more about the nonprofit, you go to EmpowerLit. That's EmpowerLIT nonprofit.org.
All right, very good. Thanks for being on the show.
Having me.
We'll see you next time. And to all of you listening, thank you for your attention. We hope you got something great out today. Thanks to our sponsors, Carolina Bays Homes. And if you like the show, make sure to like and share us on the social media of your preference. And we'll see you next time on the Leader Mentality Show with Rob Clemens.